let's go ahead for this one and get you guys squared away with something else. So in the last video, if you're following this in sequence, again, I know these things do get long, but go ahead and stop and start them and fast forward past what you don't need, especially in a remote learning environment. You're going to have to occasionally go back and refresh yourself on something here and there. So I would rather put together 20 minutes and have you use what you want out of those 20 minutes than put together a ton of 3-minute videos where you keep looking around and saying, well, that wasn't right, or that's not what I needed, or whatever. So just a quick review. We went over mirror was the last thing. We went over scale was the last thing. I still haven't talked about circle, arc, and rectangle. And I want to go ahead and get those done for you quickly. Or we did talk about rectangle last video. So again, if I want to use a rectangle, simply it just asks me in the command window to pick a first corner. So I pick it, and again, I have to think about math like an ordered pair, right? So I say at, I have to use that at symbol. And if I want that rectangle to be 3 by 2, or let's say in this case, I want it to be 3 high and 2 wide. So I hit at 2, right, along the x-axis, comma, 3. And I hit enter, and I've got a 2 by 3 rectangle. Other thing we did last video was we went ahead and we used the scale tool. So if I wanted this rectangle to be 25% smaller, 25% smaller would be the same as its original size, then I would go ahead and do this. Now, a lot of times if I'm trying to go ahead and, if I graphically design something and I'm trying to, so in this case, I'm going to copy it. Watch this. I'm going to go ahead and click it. I'm going to right click, come down to copy selection. Oops, I get scale, copy selection, and I might make 2 copies, right? All right, and I right click enter. The reason I did that is I can say, okay, well, this is the original, and I have somebody who's looking at this thing saying, well, should we change the size of it? And they say, well, let's make it 10% smaller and see how that looks. So what do? I use scale. So I click it. I can either come up here to scale, or I can just right click, come down and select scale. I said my favorite, my best practice is do it somewhere in the middle. Select here, and I'll say 0.9. Why 0.9? Because that was making it 10% smaller. Now somebody said, you know what, I thought it should have been 25% smaller. So I can click this one, and I can go right click, come down to scale, select right here, and type in what would be 25% smaller. Think about it in terms of what do you multiply it by, or what is left. So in this case, it would be 0.75. Okay. You use this all the time. So anyways, just be aware of it. Okay. Let's talk about circles, and we'll talk about arcs. And I'm not going to give you any kind of technical anything on an arc, okay? Right now, at least. Because usually when I use arcs, I cheat. And I use straight lines to determine arcs, okay? But circle, for instance, is real easy. If you hit the drop down, there's multiple different types of circles. The only one I've ever really had a need for is the basic circle. So I just click the icon. You can also hit letter C, and you'll see the first pop-up is circle, or you can hit letter C and spacebar. They all do the same thing for you. I'm just looking at what the command window asked me to do. It asked me to pick a center point. So I click this center point, and now my circle is going to rubber band. Okay, so I can randomly just select it and stop it at any place I want to. Okay, I want to repeat it. I want to do another circle. So I right click, and I get repeat circle, and I select it, and I can go this way. And I say, okay, I want to make this circle a 2-inch or a 3-inch diameter. So I type in 3. Now I want you to look at what the command window is saying down here, where it says specify radius of the circle. So I type in 3. Okay, what did it just ask me to specify? It asked me to specify the radius. But I typed in 3, and I can tell you that this is not anywhere near a 3-inch circle. Okay, well, why is that? Because watch this one more time. When I click circle, I'll make this one right in the center here. Okay, and it's rubber banding. It says specify, look right here, specify radius of the circle. and then it says or diameter. So AutoCAD understands it as a radius. And if you think back to when you learned how to draw circles in math, and I remember you probably felt real cool in math the day that you were asked to bring one of these with you to school, maybe in third or fourth grade or something, right? So think about the way you always used your compass. If your teacher asked you to draw a 3-inch diameter circle, right? There you go. You set that compass, you held a ruler, and you made it half the distance. You used the radius, right? So same goes here, right? We are using the radius. But in this case, I always think about circles in terms of diameter. So you can click D, or you can type in letter D, and then spacebar. And in this case, I'll just click 3. Okay, so this is the 3-inch circle that I wanted. So again, the reminder to you is if I go to build a circle, if I want it to be 2, okay, you got to either select the diameter of 2 or do the math in your head and say, well, wait a minute, I know that a radius of 1 is equal to a diameter of 2. Okay, I can get to the same place in both directions. All right, so there is your circle. Okay. Arcs, when we talk about arcs there's a variety of different arcs, but if you were to, I just draw a straight line, and this is usually the way I explain it in class, okay? So I'm going to draw, actually I'm going to draw 2 straight lines, okay? And I'm going to draw a line at this midpoint that's kind of further away from that line, and I'm going to draw one that is closer to that line. Now I'm just doing these as a visual. So this line and this line are exactly the same length, but the distance of this endpoint here is much further away than this. So this arc relies on 3 points, okay? Point number 1, point number 2, and point number 3. And just remember that the radius of an arc is a relationship to the diameter of a circle, okay? I'm going to right click and repeat the arc. Now, what do we think? Do we think this is more curvature or less curvature? It appears as if it's less curvature, but it's the same amount of curvature. It's just a portion of a much bigger circle, okay? So, the center point of this circle on the smaller arc might be way down here. The center point of the one with the bigger, or the seemingly bigger curve might be right here, okay? I use arcs like as, with straight lines to be cheaters a lot, but I can duplicate that same concept. I can say, okay, what if I click here, here, and here versus here, way out here, and way back here? Okay, I used about the same height, but I got more curvature in this arc, okay? Again, when we're doodling and stuff right now, we're using them very simplistically. We can use them very mathematically. But again, like I said multiple times, I just tend to use them by kind of cheating, by using straight lines and fixed endpoints and midpoints, okay? Last thing I'm going to go through with this is up here under rectangle, I have a drop down, and it will bring me to Polygon. Okay, Polygon's a pretty easy tool to use. Now look up here and just note what happens. Okay, if I started the Polygon command and I drew myself a polygon, where did my rectangle go? Well, this is going to go back and toggle back and forth. Okay, so now if I select rectangle, it stays put at rectangle. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click a polygon. Really got to follow the instructions on this, and it says enter the number of sides. Okay. So in this case, I'm going to say like I want, 6 sides. I want this to be a hexagon. Okay, so I type in 6, I hit enter. It asks me for the center point. I can click a point anywhere I want to. And there's 2 things it asks me next. It says, do I want this to be inscribed around a circle or circumscribed around a circle? So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to draw 2 circles. Okay, I'm going to go circle diameter 3. And this will at least totally help, possibly help you visualize this. This is concept that you could use building a fire pit in your yard with a stick and a piece of string. And this is really how a landscaper would kind of go about it. So I'm going to go back to Polygon. It remembered, because I clicked it again, I've started the command again. It remembered that I wanted a 6-sided polygon. It always remembers the last one you picked. Okay, so I hit enter or spacebar, and it asked me for a center point. I'm going to pick here. Now it says, do I want it inscribed or circumscribed? This means inside of or about or around. Okay, so in this case, I'll choose inscribed. Okay, and it asked me to specify the radius of the circle, so I could do one of a couple different things. I could say, I could give it a number value, okay, or I could give it a just go ahead and click this exact point, okay, because I knew that the radius of the diameter was 3, so the radius was 1.5. I'm going to do that same polygon, but this time it says, yes, I wanted 6 sides. I'm going to click right here at the center. This time I'm going to choose circumscribed, okay? And in this case, where it asks me to specify radius, I'm just going to click. And you can see I get 2 different size polygons. Yes, they're twisted in orientation, but they are exactly the same number of sides, exactly the same number of angles. This one is just slightly bigger than this one. So where would you do this? I can think of a couple different reasons you would do this, okay? You could actually have a patio or a place in your yard or something, and you call a landscaper and you want a little block fire pit built. And you say, the thing is that my neighborhood has a rule, and it says it cannot be bigger at any point than 3 feet. So the way that landscaper will start your thing is he'll put a stick in the ground right here and use a string and maybe a can of spray paint and shoot a circle right around to say that this circle is 3 feet. That way he can ensure that your polygon fits inside it. It is no bigger than 3 feet anywhere, okay? Another example I can think of where you would circumscribe something. Let's say you bought one of those grates that you put on top of your fire pit so you can cook hot dogs and steaks and things like that. And you bought that at the store at Menards or something. That grate was 3 feet. So that 3-foot grate had to sit down inside of the polygon because it couldn't sit outside of it to fit. So same object, 2 different things, 2 different ways of getting there. And we are just about done with base commands. Thanks, guys.